Good morning, my friends. Welcome to today's training. Today, we're doing another training in the Welcoming You series. I'm going to move this a little bit. This is why we're going to be talking about shame and how we work with it. So, get yourself a nice little drink, make a little space, and let's have a discussion about how we work with shame, what it is, why it shows up, how it relates to our identity and our value, and how we liberate ourselves from it. So before we get to that, if you're new to me, I'm Marshall Bircher, and I help codependents rediscover their happiness and well-being after codependency by helping them heal the trauma bond and then come to know, love, and live who they are and create happy relationships. I do those 3 stages through my courses: the Heal Yourself strategy, the Know Yourself strategy, and the relationship strategy. So if you want to learn more about what those are, links above on Facebook or on YouTube, and above in those links in the description above on Facebook and below on YouTube is the link to the community. The community is your safe haven here on the internet where you can find guidance, support, and tools, and your journey beyond your codependency, beyond your experience of abuse and neglect, and helping you discover who you are and recreate or reconnect with your wholeness, your well-being, your happiness. So the link is above on Facebook. It's below on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys for doing that. And now I've got to get that shared out to the community so they can show up and participate too. Let me know how you're doing in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on today's topic as we go through it. Ask questions, and I will get to you now. Well, there it goes. It's starting to work now. Yay! All right, boom, and now more buttons. There we are, and boom. So, all right. Good morning. So, welcoming you. This is how to work with shame. So, shame is a common topic, especially in codependency, because shame is one of the dominant emotions that show up with shame or with codependency. The other one is guilt. We have a lot of shame and a lot of guilt, and this comes from how we're treated, because shame and guilt are programmed based on how people react to us or what they reflect back to us in response to our needs, wants, our feelings, and our behaviors. And so we internalize a sense of shame based on their reaction to us, especially as children. So shame is one of the earliest emotions a child can sense. It usually starts around 15 months in their development. It's like, oh, shame. And so what is shame? Shame is the feeling that I am intrinsically flawed, thus unlovable. That's what it breaks down to. My flaw makes me unlovable. This behavior makes me unlovable. This need, this want, this feeling, this experience I have of this situation makes me unlovable. And when we're abused, we think that we've caused the abuse, that there was something we did, because the brain tries to connect dots to understand the dynamic. So it says, well, I did this and then they did that, so thus this thing I did is the problem, and since I have that feeling, that need, or that want, or I did that behavior, there's something that must be wrong with me, because they wouldn't react that way if they loved me, if I hadn't done something like that. So we think that their behaviors become our responsibility, and the shame tends to give us a false sense of confidence in this experience, that indeed we're responsible for how they behave. So we internalize this as a sense of value, as our what I call intrinsic worth or innate value. We think the shame defines our value, it defines our worthiness, and ultimately our lovability. And this is why it has so much power, because then the shame integrates or entangles itself into our sense of identity and who we are, and it shapes how we behave and how we respond to ourselves, to our feelings, wants, needs, and behaviors, and to other people's feelings, wants, needs, and behaviors. It becomes the lens in which we see ourselves and them, and it becomes what I call the governing value that guides us in what we're doing. This is why it's one of the more challenging emotions to differentiate from and to discover who we are beyond it because it's so entangled in everything. But this is also very natural and normal for people who have grown up in abusive, toxic, or neglectful relationships or family dynamics, because shame is the governing value there too. They shame you for having feelings, for having needs, for having wants, for behaviors, for your personality, for how you do things, for how you want things, for how you need things. It's a constant message that you're the problem, there's something wrong with you, and you gotta fix it. So your brain's like, it must be the truth, so I'm gonna do it this way. I'm a shameful person. And so that's where that frame of reference comes from. It's developed in us by our dominant experience with people whom we're attached or bonded to. And then they exploit it. Sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. Sometimes they're coming from shame and we inherit that, we internalize it, and round the cycle goes. So how do we work with this when this starts showing up in our world? Well, the first thing we need to really confront and understand about shame is that it isn't a fact, it isn't a truth, and it is not reality. It's an emotion. So going from the statement, I am shameful, we can then open up to the idea that I feel shame about. That gets us a little distance between the identity and the emotion. This distance, this little space we create with those shifts, that reframe, allows us to consider that maybe I am intrinsically not a shameful being or person, but maybe there's things I feel shame about. This gives us the ability to understand ourselves beyond the shame feeling and also discover if that's even valid. Because that's where we go next. It's like, is this shame actually a valid thing? Like, should I feel shame about this thing, or is there another option? Because sometimes what I've discovered is that shame is programmed. I've been taught to feel shame when I feel or do or need or want something. So it comes in as that reflection. Yeah, that's a really disgusting thing you want. Or really, you want that? Are you sure? I mean, other people don't like that. I mean, you're just weird. Oh, okay. See, that's a programming. We're receiving a reflection, and if we internalize it, then we're like, this feeling means I should feel shame because it's weird. We can start to challenge that. I feel shame about really liking computer games. Okay. What else is possible now? That's the question you ask after that. And it's like, what if the shame is a lie? How would I feel about computer games then? Then we start to notice and discover a different emotional response in ourselves about that particular thing, which gives us more distance from the shame, more distance from identifying with the shame and identifying that the shame is the right thing to feel. There's technically no right way to feel about something. It's just what you feel. This allows us to make a different choice. It's like, I don't agree that it's shameful anymore. I like how it feels. They feel playful to me. I enjoy them. I mean, look, I've got a whole thing there of them. It's just joy for me. Now we can receive our true experience, our truth in this experience, which is their joy to me. And we can begin to let go a little more of the identification and trust we have in that shame. It's like, who would I be without this shame? This gives us a gentle, nuanced approach to breaking free of that really sticky, really entangled experience of shame. And this allows us to open up to a number of different things here. Okay? One, we get to shift our behavior, our governing sense of value. So if shame was that dominant sense of worth, now we can open up to other options for a dominant sense of worth. I tend to go towards love or joy as a dominant sense of value. The reason why is because that helps me see my situations through a different lens And it helps guide my behaviors from that lens. So rather than shame dictating how I respond to something, love, joy, curiosity, kindness, compassion, these become new ways to look at myself, my behaviors, my feelings, my wants, and my needs, and other people's behaviors, feelings, wants, and needs. I'm able to open up beyond that just really narrow view of shame and access different aspects of who I am to respond to situations in ways that are more aligned with me. Because there's a choice we make in this, fundamentally, is that I choose to see myself as lovable and worthy and whole. I have innate value. And I choose to lean into experiencing what that innate value is for me. That could be joy, that could be peace, that could be play, that could be love, that could be compassion, whatever it might show up as in that moment. But when I am outside of my shame, I step into my innate value of being intrinsically valued. Not valuable, valued. Like, I value myself. I love and like and respect myself. Not because I'm a human being, not because I exist. There's no qualifier on it anymore. It's just I choose that for me. Now, that choice allows me to open up to understanding what that experience is by exploring it, discovering it, seeing what it feels like. When I first started this approach, it was very uncomfortable. A lot of my shame got activated in that. I had to confront a number of different aspects of myself that I'd rejected and shamed and turned into a problem. And I had to reclaim them from the shame. I had to reclaim my value from the shame, my identity. I had to apply worth and respect and care to my feelings, wants, and needs. I had to respect my behaviors and understand that my behaviors had impact, but if that impact was negative or it hurt someone, that doesn't mean I'm shameful or that I'm harmful or toxic in some way. That means that I need to adjust the behavior so it's more aligned with my intention. So we get into this thing called compassionate accountability there. It's like, oh, I screwed that up. Well, here's my intention. How can I, what kind of behavior helps me express that intention better in this situation with this person? That's how compassionate that is, how kind that is to ourselves. This is what we start to gain when we differentiate ourselves from the shame and realize that maybe I don't have to even feel shame anymore for anything. I don't have to feel shame for mistakes. I don't have to feel shame for problems. I don't have to feel shame for disappointing someone. I don't have to feel shame for upsetting someone or for being different or for asking for something or for saying no or for saying yes or for wanting things the way I want them. Maybe shame is not even necessary in any way. Maybe the only purpose in shame is to point us towards a place in us that needs love. Because that's what I use it for. When my shame shows up, I'm like, ooh, I found a place that needs my love. And so I begin to gently hold space with that place and that part of myself, allowing it to express its real pain. Because behind the shame is pain, there's grief, there's sorrow, there's confusion, there's sadness, there's anger. Because we've been hurt, we've been rejected, we've been harmed in some way. And we're coming back to us. So as we make space from that shame, we start to differentiate our identity from the shame and we connect back to other options in us. Compassion becomes possible, love, respect, liking ourselves. And listen to how your body feels when you go into these new spaces. Because if it gets lighter, your body's telling you a truth. Because shame often feels very heavy and very disjointed and self-loathing and self-attacking. And if we step out of that, we lighten up. Lightness means this is real or true for me. This is your body being kind and giving you a signal and saying, hey, go this route. Allow yourself to explore what this is. Let's see. Carl says, I'm not shame body, I feel shame, and it's probably an emotional flashback. Yeah, I'm not the shame body. Bingo. And it is a signal of what you've experienced in the past. And it is a place that you can use as a pointer to things within you that are just asking for love and understanding and for inclusion or retrieval from their exile. I don't know that shame needs love. I think the part that is expressing the pain or the shame needs the love. I think it needs love, it needs compassion, it needs care, it needs understanding. And we need to be willing to let the shame go. We need to be willing to let the shame release itself so that we can discover more about who we are beyond it. Be kind and gentle with ourselves. Now, when it comes to behavior, there's a lot of belief in the world that says I should feel shame for how I behaved or how I impacted this person. Or I should feel guilt. That's another one. We'll be doing a video on that. I don't agree. Because what happens with shame or guilt is the arrow of attention is pointed back to me in this problem. So if I did something that impacted someone else and I feel shame about it, I'm focused on me. I am not focused on the impact I had on the other person. Nor am I being respectful to me or them, and I'm not applying compassion or genuine honesty about what's going on. So the way I approach this is I move towards empathy rather than shame when I find out I've had an impact on someone that hurt them. So I have empathy for the impact I had on them, and I have empathy for myself. Because I live from the premise that I am I'm a limited person. I'm a limited being. I don't buy into the idea that we're flawed. I buy into the idea that we are limited and that we are discoverers and not necessarily knowers. We're really bad at knowing things. We're really good at understanding and discovering things. And so if I have intention A and I get result B with my impact, there's a problem there. Shame isn't going to correct that, but empathy can. Remorse can. And what that does for me is when I'm empathizing with them, I can empathize with myself. It's like, yeah, of course. That's really is hard. I mean, I wanted this impact. I didn't get it, and I'm really sad about it. And I care about how they feel. So now they're in the proper focus in my orientation. They get the validation and the understanding they deserve. Their repair can be made there. And I can grow myself rather than condemn myself for making a very normal thing called a mistake. Mistakes are normal, guys. They are not a problem. They're not an abnormal thing in reality. They're intrinsic to being in reality. That's just how it works. We're going to make the mistake. We don't have to condemn ourselves. We can have compassion and accountability, which is like, oh, yep, I did that thing. That's all accountability is I did the thing. And then we can have compassion on ourselves and empathy for them. We're good to go. We have remorse rather than guilt. It's like, oh yeah, I can see how I affected that by breaking that rule. I really apologize there. Here's what I'll do differently. There's no condemnation. There's no judgment. There's no shaming of self. Instead, there's just growth and discovery housed in love and respect for ourselves and for them. This leads to deep integration of new behaviors, more compassion, more curiosity, more safety in relationship and safety in repair. This leads to genuine intimacy with yourself and with others. It's a much healthier foundation based on the results it produces long term. So explore that. See what works for you there. So I've got some tools around shame and some recommendations here to begin your journey in separating yourself from your shame. First one is called Shame Release. The link is above on Facebook, below on YouTube. And again, if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. This is just a simple guide I created for one of my courses called Heal. And you just follow it. guide you through releasing the shame and integrating love in its space so you can discover who you are from that love. There's the compassion tool that will assist you in opening up to compassion for yourself rather than condemnation or judgment. And then then there is the SAR, moving through shame, linked above. I also recommend Brene Brown's work on shame. Her work like The Gifts of Imperfection, for instance, and Braving are extremely powerful work on understanding shame and its role in our world, and how we can utilize it to grow ourselves, and by releasing it, and by discovering who we are beyond shame. Ultimately, that's how we work with it. Shame is a pointer towards places that need love. We bring love and compassion in. We allow ourselves to differentiate our identity and our value from shame so that our identity and value become separate from it. We move towards understanding our innate value and its experience through the frame of love and joy. And then we move towards empathy and remorse in response to the impact we have on other people rather than guilt and shame. And we become very empowered to have highly healthy, transparent, and honest relationships, simple repairs that create and generate and sustain intimacy in those relationships. And we become more honest in our connection with ourself, more sober in that reality of who we are and what our value and the experience of our innate value. That's the beauty of it, is we become just more honest and more connected with us and others. So there you go, guys. That's today's training. Remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping. Go gently with yourself in this journey beyond codependency. Now, if you are looking for guidance, you're looking for a structured path through your journey, I recommend the Heal Yourself strategy as your first starting point. We work with shame and guilt in that course, and we work with differentiating your identity and your value from those things. And we do that by helping you accomplish three things. First, we restore safety, emotionally, physically, and relationally. Then we restore your sanity by helping you understand what is real, by breaking you free of the fantasy, and by helping you regulate into sobriety. And then I teach you how to restore yourself by differentiating yourself from other people, places, and things, coming into contact with your innate value, and beginning to do what's called emotional legitimization and needs, wants, and boundaries. So the link is above on Facebook and below on YouTube. You can enroll in that and start that journey. So guys, again, I appreciate you. Remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping, and I will see you guys in our next video.